Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. I'm Hank from Enginomics, and I gotta have a little bit of a heart-to-heart with you guys because one, I'm really happy with the success of my YouTube channel so far, and I really appreciate all of you for supporting. If you haven't yet, hit the like button, I'd really appreciate it, and definitely subscribe if you're interested in this kind of video. But today I have a pretty special thing for you guys, and it's kind of a follow-up to one of my most popular video, which is called 3D Printed Houses Are Stupid, and Here's Why. Looking back on that video, I'm a little bit disappointed in myself in how many assumptions I actually made with those 3D printed houses, and I might have come at it from just my perspective. So actually, I got some feedback on this video from a fellow content creator called Jarett Gross. He does a lot of other interesting videos about automated construction, and in this video, I actually interviewed him, and I had him on and talk a little bit about what he agrees with in my assumptions of 3D printed houses and what I could actually learn, and I think you guys would actually get a lot out of that too. Without further ado, let's go into the interview with Jarett. Thanks for reaching out, and thanks for coming in and agreeing to do this.
Yeah, I saw your video, why 3D printed houses are stupid. And since my whole channel, I mean, my main focus is automated construction, but since I guess 3D printing has been a primary route that's been achieved, or that people are trying to achieve that goal. Mm-hmm. So I've been covering it as closely as I can, and I felt inclined to comment on your video and maybe suggest some reasons, shed some light on things you may have not prior examined.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do want to preface this and say that I feel a little bit bad for how I titled that video. And I mean, I guess you watched it, and I didn't completely discount like 3D printing as a means of automated construction, but I think I might have gone in a little too harsh. So I was hoping to maybe get some.
No, honestly, I thought it was a great strategy, like a clickbait strategy.
I mean, and again, I'm getting used to that right now. So I'm trying to create enticing headlines, and it paid off.
Great title.
I mean, like, yeah, thanks. So,
and it's your best performing video too, right?
Yeah, it is right now. So it was doing kind of right away, but then just about a week ago, it just kind of blew up, and it's been doing really well ever since.
Yeah, it's funny how that works.
Yeah. But I will say it's been a little controversial. The comments that I've gotten on it, and even like the dislike ratio, has been a little intense. But I think it's healthy probably to get that kind of feedback, because it led me to consult you about some of this stuff.
Certainly.
Yeah, I guess if you want to give me some background about your channel, and I guess like I'll probably throw this up on my channel, so anyone else who's listening, like, give some pitch your channel, I guess.
So I guess I found 3D printed construction from a Facebook video like 3 years ago. There was this headline, 3D printed house for $10,000. And that headline's been spread all over the internet. There's tons of journalists that just sit at their desks and read articles online and then write what other people wrote, new wording, post it. Even for like the New York Times and big journalism, big papers, it's unbelievable. But all this false news got propagated, and I guess I'm somewhat thankful for that, because it's how I found it in the first place. But it created a huge issue because the companies pursuing the technology got inundated with orders. They weren't able to respond to any of them because there were just so many people seeking a $10,000 house. So I was in China visiting a roommate of mine from college who was Chinese, and traveling with him and his family, who they all worked for the Chinese government. So while I was over there near Shanghai, I took the opportunity to visit Winsun. And I figured before then I was in South China in Hong Kong. I knew I was going to go to the Winsun facility, so I bought a camera there and used that camera to film the videos that I started my channel with Winsun.
Oh, that's awesome.
So cool. I checked out their facilities, and it was a really unique experience. They didn't speak much English. I don't know if they would have been okay with what I was doing if they really understood. They later asked me to remove the videos, as China frequently does.
Oh,
They're
wow.
very protective over their information. And I decided not to. And that was the start of my channel. So it was maybe 4 or 5 months after that that I saw a 3D printed house by SQ4D near my house in the New York, New Jersey area. Okay. So I went and checked that out, got another video, did a couple of that. That was like a series. And then did a video that was like 30 companies pioneering 3D printed houses. And I think that kind of put me on the map, because the companies I mentioned, some of them caught wind of the video. And so that kind of like, I started getting more access to some of these companies. And I then went to Texas to check out Icon. They're like the biggest American
Yeah, that's
company.
the one I did my video on.
And it took like 3 months for me to be able to film their project, because I was trying to coordinate with them when it was going to work, and they didn't want to show their technology too early. They were in the middle of working on the project. So ultimately they let me do the video. That was well worth the 3 months, because after getting Icon, I was able to, it opened up a lot of other doors. So I then went to Mighty Buildings in California, 20 Additive Manufacturing in Canada. They gave me like tremendous insight. I stayed with them for 3 weeks, and I was with them almost every day watching their printer. And I did a video like 12 steps to operate a concrete 3D printer. I'm pretty sure there's nothing else available like that on YouTube yet, just because it's such a small industry.
Yeah.
And I, after that, went to Louisiana for an APIS core project, and I met with the founders there, but I couldn't do the video yet because the technology wasn't ready. In Florida, I went to see Printed Farms. They have a Cobot printer, which is like a big company from Europe, and they claim to be selling the most printers. They're all private companies, so they don't need to publicly state the exact numbers, and they don't. But I've seen so many of them being sold that I think that's a substantiated claim.
Okay.
So yeah, I've just been chasing all these different projects around and really looking for the tipping point of when it becomes more economical. And I think the reason why your title for your video is so good, why 3D printed houses are stupid, is because if it's not economical, it is stupid. Like, things need to make sense financially, otherwise it'll never be adopted. So the one blind spot was the progression of technology, and that while it may not be cost effective today, you can see the trajectory is on a path to get there.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And thank you for pointing out the economic factor, because I guess on my channel there's I think, and you could probably tell me if I'm wrong later, but I guess what I'm trying to do is kind of merge like engineering in one case, because I'm an engineer, I'm a mechanical engineer by study, but also merge that with kind of the economic thinking, because there are some really good ideas out there, but if they don't work economically, then it's just vaporware. But and then the other way around, like, if there's some great economic thinking out there, but if you can't put that into like a physical device or a physical space like a 3D printed house, then that doesn't matter either.
Yeah, absolutely. So now that I talked about my channel, why don't you talk about yours?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm pretty new to YouTube. I just started probably in last November. And like I said, I'm Enginomics. The title itself is kind of that merging of engineering and economics. I have some economic interests. I have engineering background, and I figured it would be kind of fun to do deep dives into topics based on that kind of lie at the intersection between those two topics, and hopefully shine some light on a lot of the there's a lot of engineering, there's a lot of hype right now with engineering, with technology, and with just a lot of these like up and coming stuff, and I kind of want to shine a light on it, like, to make sure and keep them honest, but also to, like, I guess, hype them up too, because there's some other cool stuff that I'm looking to go over. And I actually had a video on 3D printed cars, and there's a lot of technology that goes into those, which is actually like a really great idea. So I'm just trying to use my engineering background to entertain and also inform.
That's a great name for the channel.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it. I was unsure how it was going to be at first, but that's just kind of how I came up with.
I struggled with picking a name for a while, and ultimately just decided to go with my own name so that I could keep it mobile.
Yeah, and if you pivot, then that's a great thing. And I guess maybe that I might pigeonhole myself if that becomes the case, or I don't really end up making.
I think engineering and economics is a wide enough topic that you can keep yourself busy for a while.
Yeah, I'm hoping so, and that's where my interest lies. So, yeah, that's pretty much the background on my channel. I'm still kind of working on learning the ropes of stuff, all the editing, all the recording, all of the just the the script writing and topic research that comes with this kind of field.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, but it's kind of been my for lack of better words, just my quarantine project. So I thought this would be kind of a fun thing to do. And I feel like the barrier of entry is so low now that, I mean, I'm just using my iPhone and a lapel mic and a ring light that I have in my thing. It's pretty bare bones right now, but I guess if people enjoy watching it and I guess the audio quality and video quality is good enough, then people are going to watch it. So yeah, we're kind of getting off topic of the actual 3D printed houses stuff. So yeah, you mentioned kind of the myth of the $10,000 house, and also like I guess the myth of even more extreme, the $4,000 house. Do you want to talk about maybe like kind of like the barriers that you've seen with how that's working out?
Yeah, for the sake of your channel, I'll try to do the Enginomics approach and talk about the money. So I'd say the current biggest issue is with getting it to a cheaper cost. I don't think $10,000 is ever going to be realistic. That's like a crazy low dollar value for housing. And if that did happen, the economic impact of that, when people can get a new home built to custom spec for cheaper than buying an old home, that could have some serious implications for the housing market and the real estate market as a whole. We've been operating in a low supply environment for real estate for many, many years now. And a $10,000 house would probably outpace the supply would ultimately outpace demand. And like that has tremendous implications for all the banks that are backing mortgages that could potentially go underwater if the real estate prices dropped. But obviously that's like very far down the road. For now, the material cost is cost prohibitive. It's 3 to 4 times more expensive than regular concrete because it needs to be buildable from the first layer. So the first layer needs to be strong enough to support the second layer, the third layer, and optimally you want to build the whole thing at once. So to achieve that strength requires materials engineering that just drives up the cost astronomically. Now there's some promising prospects for additives that would be able to be combined with traditional concrete mixtures and make them printable. So that would reduce the shipping cost, because right now a lot of the material has to be shipped even overseas because it's so custom. But if they were able to have something that was less than 1% of the weight of the concrete that could be added in at a marginal cost, then if the cost was, say, 2 times more expensive than regular concrete or 1.5 times more expensive, overnight, the whole industry would become incredibly cost effective.
Yeah, definitely. I could definitely see that being a thing.
There's a few different materials that are in consideration. One is graphene. And so they've been coming out with cheaper and cheaper ways to produce graphene. Right now they're at like 10 cents a gram, which is still cost prohibitive for such a large use case. But I think they just came out with some development involving burning trash and creating graphene, like just thin single layers of carbon out of it. So
that's cool.
As they continue to decrease the cost of graphene, the reality of printable concrete on a cost-effective basis becomes closer and closer.
Yeah, definitely. With your experience with the 3D printed houses, have you seen any other materials used, or has it mainly been like a special blend of concrete?
For houses, it's generally a special blend of concrete. Icon has their own mixture, Apis Core has their own mixture, Cyber has their own mixture. A lot of companies are using a mixture by Latacrete. They've developed over 100 different combinations of materials that they've tested, and they have a couple that are optimized. And most of the 3D printed houses I featured on my channel that don't use their own material are using that Latacrete material for now.
Okay.
Another producer is Baumit. They make a material that combines an accelerant with the concrete, and that makes the concrete harden almost instantly. So they're able to print arches without the limitations of regular 3D printing.
That's pretty cool.
But that's 10 times more expensive than regular concrete. So
yeah, that's far off. I saw the same kind of thing when it came to 3D printing metal. When it comes to that sintering process, you can't really just throw in molten metal into like a 3D printer. You need to have a special blend of powder alloy that is like used as that base coat that is then kind of welded together. So I could definitely see like again, they'll probably figure out the technology at some point, but it's just probably going to take a little bit to do that.
Yeah, I would imagine when it becomes really cost effective, it will look totally different potentially than it does today.
Mhm.
And the whole construction technique behind the building will look totally different because right now they're kind of just making the walls like they would be cinder block walls and then just doing conduit on the exterior or whatever, cutting holes for plumbing. But some projects, really just one project in Germany, they're printing a 2-story house and they've made an incredible number of considerations for how they can use the 3D printer for different parts of the house, like a bathtub, a shower, a fireplace. And they're really pushing the limits of like design efficiency and I guess the possibility. There's so much new potential opened up. It's going to take a lot of time and engineers to kind of like mine through the new opportunity for what's actually going to be cost effective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could definitely see that being the case. At least I'm a mechanical engineer, so a lot of like the mechanical engineer, like a lot of them are going into materials when it comes to these flexible materials that can be used for a lot of different things. I have a lot of friends who are working on kind of new ways of creating these filaments for 3D printers or just these flexible kind of materials as well.
What I'd really like to see is a material that resembles wood. Concrete has like a high heat transfer, so it feels like cold to the touch, or if it's hot, it'll feel hot to the touch. It has very poor insulatory properties. It's not great for sound. And if they were to make some kind of wood-like material, then I think it would be much easier for people to accept as a new form of housing, just because it would be more comfortable.
Definitely. Yeah, I could definitely see that. I think another thing would be maybe just like the ecological effects of that. If you could use almost like a biomass for housing, then it would be eco-friendly and whatnot. And I know concrete, the process of making concrete is really, really bad for the environment. So for making a more eco-friendly filament for these 3D printers, that could definitely be a huge thing.
Yeah, a company in Sweden was using artificial cellulose to 3D print kind of like a simulated wood. Like wood is just cellulose. So by printing it, it was like an interesting mixture, but I haven't seen anything from them lately. I think it might be because in order to do that, they needed to print with acetone. And that's like that's terrible for the environment. That just
Yeah.
quantity of acetone that they needed.
Yeah, it's the devil you know versus the devil you don't know, I guess. So I guess going back to the video that I made, just Icon, you've seen their setup and whatnot. Do you think that they're kind of ahead of the game when it comes to this? You said that they made their own 3D printed like filament, I guess, if you want to call it that, or concrete mix.
Yeah, they have their own material. Because it's proprietary, they're not transparent about the cost or the composition.
Okay.
So it's kind of unclear.
Yeah.
Their material definitely has a really smooth consistency, like toothpaste. It might be really high in cement, which would make it more expensive. Cement's like the most expensive component of concrete. Or it may not. It may be something completely different. A lot of companies want to use like geopolymers, but like I said, their stuff is proprietary, so it's
not a lot of transparency. Yeah, that's another thing I was really frustrated in with the video is they said that they're working on making houses in under 24 hours and they're working on making them for under $4,000. We addressed the price point and how that's not feasible, at least right now. Do you think like constructing a house in 24 hours is possible?
Move-in ready, definitely not. But the printed portion of it, that's certainly achievable. I think most claims of a house printed in 24 hours is relating to the total print time, not the total time transpiring from start to end.
Yeah.
And so maybe it takes place over a week, a few hours a day, and that's under 24 hours of printing. I don't think it's unrealistic that the walls could be printed in a day of definitely a 1-story house.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, especially if I guess they figure out that concrete mixture and make sure that it can cure in that amount of time. Because that was one of my other concerns. Because I've worked with some concrete in the past, and I know that it takes takes a little bit for it to set. So I just kind of had a question, because you mentioned in the comment that you left on my post that you think that the technology is progressing, and that you kind of used the analogy of the light bulb, where it took a lot of time for the light bulb to become, I guess, what we see today. Where do you think, I guess, like the next breakthrough is in 3D printing, or what do you think is like the biggest roadblock? I guess it's a two-part question.
Yeah, for the light bulb, it was the filament. The filament was like either too brittle and it would break, or it wouldn't be bright enough.
Mm-hmm.
And so they were struggling. I think the filament was their breakthrough. And I think similarly for 3D printed construction, the filament is the biggest issue here as well. Like the material they're printing with, like I said, cost is the most important thing. And that's the biggest hindrance to cost. Like the other costs, the printer's expensive. They might go for like $500,000, give or take a few $100,000.
Yeah.
And that cost, I don't see dropping drastically anytime soon. And even if it did, unless the material gets cheaper, the variable costs just don't make sense.
What do you think about like the whole setup time when it comes to these 3D printers, these $100,000 plus 3D printers? I saw, at least in the Icon video,
it's like 8 hours up, 8 hours down.
Okay, gotcha. I was just about to say, because like in the Icon video that I saw, they essentially had a frame of a house around it, which I thought was kind of ironic, I guess, just because they basically built up a frame of a house just to build a house inside of it. But I guess if it's 8 hours, then that's still probably labor intensive, but not as bad.
That's a big debate in the 3D printed construction space. Is like, do you print in the open elements, or do you protect the printer from the open elements? Some people use a tent, some people print offsite and then ship things in. The hurdles that you have to overcome if you're printing outside are like weather changes, temperature, humidity. These things can lead to less smooth lines in the print. So a lot of companies opt to build some kind of structure, like even going as far to build a whole building around the house that's going to be 3D printed, which obviously to me doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, that's what I thought was funny. I don't know why, but I guess also in my video, I mentioned possibly using prefab, like prefabricated elements. And you said that some of the 3D printing could be done offsite. Have you had any experience with looking into those kind of companies?
Yeah, 20 in Canada they had built a house offsite in a facility and then transported parts. There's a couple challenges there, like the joints between concrete, because you can't have raw concrete on concrete. You have to have some kind of joint so that it's like the cartilage.
I didn't know that. Interesting.
And personally, I like on-site much better. And 20 did end up developing a new printer that they call Uniqueum, which is mounted to a trailer that prints outside.
Okay. Interesting.
But prefab's great. I don't even like talking about it because it's so expansive and it's far out of my realm of expertise. Like I know that prefab is great. It's cost effective. It's not customizable, big transport costs. You get like every unit looks the same. And a lot of times it's not true automation. You're just shifting the labor from on-site to off-site.
I guess in the future, if there are some breakthroughs in prefab technology, then
there's definitely some prefab companies that are automating the construction of their buildings. And I think that's a track that I might diversify down at some point in the future. But for now, I'm trying to stay really potently focused on one thing. That way I can become a true expert in this before I try to jump into other stuff.
I admire the specification and specialization of your channel, so I won't try to force anything upon you. Just another thing that we talked about earlier was the just like the electrical and plumbing when it comes to buildings. And you said that you saw some buildings that were using kind of elements that were kind of placed into there. But I guess for the most part, from what I saw with Icon, a lot of that is highly manual still. Do you have any comments on that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's just a step-by-step thing. Ultimately, what everyone wants to see is a house where you press a button and the machine does the rest of the work and then it's move-in ready with the key.
Yeah, exactly.
But people in construction know that that's a long way off because there's so many different trades. I mean, any construction site could have 1 to 2 dozen different subcontractors, each specializing in something different. So to train a machine to do every single one of those things in all of the different circumstances that can arise is something that will probably take longer than our lifetimes. They're making considerations for it now, and pick and place robotic arms can go a long way. But once the house is built, there's so many obstacles, like physical obstacles, printed walls that you have to navigate around. Like I said, it's going to look totally different in the future when it's close to that level than it does now.
This just came off the top of my head. How long do you think it will be until we're all living in 3D printed houses?
I don't think we'll ever all live in 3D printed houses, just because construction in general, there's so much variety in people's taste. There's like more styles of homes and construction than I could think of. So there's always going to be a place for all of them. It's just as people pick, and some people will choose to have a hand-built house. Like Bentley has a hand-built version of a car that you can get. It's double the price to get it hand-built, but people buy it anyway because they just appreciate the nature of
and the craftsmanship
stuff.
Yeah,
which is great, because that means that people in construction don't have to be concerned about losing their jobs. It's something that comes up sometimes. Some people don't like automation for the fact that it takes jobs away. I'm sure you, appreciating economics, just appreciate anything that improves prices and increases efficiency.
I also see the other aspect of that, where there are people's livelihoods who are tied to this kind of thing, and automation, you see it everywhere all the time, and it's a problem that will need to be addressed at some point, especially if a lot of construction gets automated, because that's a highly manual process.
Thing is, the construction labor force has been decreasing enormously, and it's top heavy. So all the people in the construction industry now are in their 40s, 50s, and they're retiring soon. People our age aren't really picking up the slack, and they aren't going into trade schools or apprenticeships. And so it's almost like the problem is a small, dwindling construction labor force, and the solution is automation, rather than automation is coming in and taking away jobs. Because like I said, there's always going to be construction jobs, but there's never going to come a time where people don't want a handmade house or don't want handmade repairs to their house.
Yeah, that's interesting. I never really thought about it that way, or really knew about the construction population, I guess. I guess going back to our generation, you see all of, like, people in our generation, I don't know your age, but I assume that you're a Gen Z millennial kind of borderline as well. I guess, I'm
in the last couple of years of the millennials.
Yeah, I think I'm slightly on the other side there, but I feel like our generation is trending more towards these like tiny homes, van life, like all these people are living in yurts now. Do you think that will kind of propel 3D printed houses into kind of a more kind of interest, like people want a cool living space, and I think that 3D printed houses could definitely provide that for them. Do you think that our generation is going to absolutely, like, once we enter the working force, do you think that it's going to take off even more?
It's very possible. There's so many different tracks that are promising for the technology that I wouldn't guarantee any one of them would necessarily be successful. Mm-hmm. But tiny homes are great. Personally, I like space. And so I think like a tiny home is something under 500 square feet. And that's pretty small if you're by yourself. If you're with a family, it becomes like, it's pretty tight. Some people can do it, and if the space is organized really efficiently, it can work. And maybe that's a perk of this technology, is that people will be able to organize the space efficiently for their own needs and have it really customized simply.
I guess, yeah, going back to that point about tiny houses, and I guess all those solutions, and back to economics itself, I think a lot of people are trying to get away from getting in debt with a lot of these houses and having massive mortgages. So driving down the average cost of a house could definitely contribute to helping that out. And from what it sounds like, 3D printed houses could definitely have a part in that.
Interesting stuff to talk about is, like, from an economics perspective, the prices of lumber have been skyrocketing since.
I did see an article about that. Yeah, that
has a very direct impact on the viability for 3D printed concrete. If it doubles one more time, then 3D printing could instantly be cost effective without any improvements.
So I guess going back to that statistic there, you said that lumber prices have doubled.
Lumber prices have more than doubled since this time last year.
Okay.
And they went down a little bit in September, and now they're back up again to all-time highs. So
that's interesting.
We'll see.
Yeah, I know that the housing market has been exploding right now, and houses that were going for X amount are going for 2X amount now, and nothing has changed with the house. I think people are starting to realize, especially with lockdown and 2020 and everything with that, that a more permanent, larger space, like you were saying, is beneficial. I checked out one of your most recent videos about just also like other uses for this 3D printed concrete, and I saw the one on furniture. Do you want to like describe that a little bit?
Yeah, this company Uniqueum in Germany has been experimenting with all kinds of different products that they can print. Like personally for me, I'm really just interested in construction, but I figured since I've done so much printed concrete on my channel, I may as well explore the other opportunities with it. Yeah, they printed chairs, tables, all kinds of miscellaneous furniture. They're expanding their product line of what they're capable of all the time. And I think they're like really in a heavy experimentation phase. So if there's any people that maybe have like a model they want printed or something and want to send it to them, I wouldn't be surprised if they'd be willing to test it out.
Yeah, that's super cool. Huh. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this technology is applied to other places too. I mean, we talked mostly about houses, but other buildings, other use cases could be pretty cool. I think that's all the questions that I had for you based on the 3D printed stuff. I guess thanks for coming on and helping me understand it a little bit better. I hope that my video wasn't too too angrying, but it's
no, I thought it was great. If anything, you could have been a little more angry. It probably would have got more views.
Well, maybe next time, but
I'm always afraid to be like too intense in any videos either. I don't ever want to like say anything too negative about a company and make them look bad, because like you never know, they could just be one project, one mistake they made or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's definitely the case with Icon here. I felt bad because it's also they're a startup, and I didn't expect for this video to get as many views as it did, but now my scathing review of Icon products is out there, so I hope they can forgive me, and I hope that they they get a little bit of a tailwind from this.
Yeah, I mean, they're doing pretty good. If those 4 houses sell, they're going to have a lot of orders soon.
Yeah, that's super exciting to see. Well, cool. I think that pretty much wraps up the discussion about 3D printed houses. So thank you for that.
Cool.
All right.
Yeah, my pleasure.
So that concludes my interview with Jarett. Like I said, this guy's a great content creator and he's making some great videos about 3D printed houses. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, definitely go over to his channel and hit subscribe. And also, if you enjoyed my content and my videos, definitely subscribe as well. Hit the like on this video if you want more of this kind of free-form interview style of video. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.